What's going on, my homies? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the Week 8 Battle of GBA Season 9, where your KC Jirachiefs are taking on my good friend TomZ, the coach of the San Jose Sharpedos. Make sure to go check out Tom. He's probably already uploaded, or he has already uploaded our side of the battle at this point. We both apologize for it coming out late here this week. Unfortunately, our schedules just didn't really line up, our work schedule specifically, so we had to play late on Sunday night. So here we are, I guess, on this. But anyways, we apologize for that. But yeah, make sure to go check out Tom's channel. He'll be linked down in the description below. Definitely make sure to check out his side of our match, as well as I guess, spoiler in advance, this is a really good match here for sure. So just to very briefly go over the team that we are going up against here this week. So Tom has decided to bring the Tapu Koko, Latios, Scizor, Araquanid, Conkeldurr, and the Ho-Oh, which is a very threatening team that he brought here for sure. Make sure to go check out the team builder if you want to see how we have decided to approach building and playing this game against Tom in a really threatening matchup. That will of course be linked down in the description below as always. So just to very briefly go over the team that we are bringing, it is a 3 attacks Groudon with the Aya Papa Berry and the Stealth Rock. It is a Tail Glow 2 attacks plus Heal Bell Manaphy to hopefully help me out against the likelihood of Sacred Fire burns from the Ho-Oh. Then I have a 4 attacks defensive Magearna, just really fat and threatening against this team. I have a utility Mew with Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Toxic, and Defog for the potential Sticky Web bring. Then I have Scolipede, which is Protect 3 attacks and Adamant Life Orb variant, and then a defensive kind of mixed offensive, I guess, Roost 3 attacks Mega Aerodactyl. So basically general game plan is to try to win with my faster mons in the late game and let some of my fatter mons kind of set the stage for that as the battle progresses. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right on into this match, and we will see how this thing goes down. Of course, shout out to the guys who make this game possible. Styx was able to gen my team for me this week, and Aaron2420 was able to record my match for me as well, so thank you to those guys. And let's go ahead and jump right on into this. As Groudon is going to be my lead, it was kind of my dedicated lead here in this matchup. I felt it matched up well against the vast majority of his team with my coverage options, and Stealth Rocks really are so important to my game plan here for this particular team, trying to wear down those Pokemon that might be able to check my Scolipede and my Mega Aerodactyl. So I am just going to lead off with the Groudon, kind of expecting him to try to lead off with Koko in this matchup, as that's exactly what he does. He reveals to actually be an attack boosting nature, probably max attack investments. That was, I think, a max roll from that U-turn, so that's a very physically offensive Koko. I'll have to keep that in mind here for sure, as I am going to be able to get up my Stealth Rock here immediately, which is really good in this game. This Latios could easily have the Defog, and just in case that's what he opts to go for, I am just going to stay in with my Groudon. Even if he decided to go for like a Life Orb Draco Meteor, I know I'm able to take that with my investment, as I do have a fair amount of special defense investment for the potential Koko bring, or the potential like Z Grass Knot or Life Orb Grass Knot bring. So I just go for the Stone Edge, and he actually goes for the Dragon Dance, which is really threatening here, as this is probably going to be a Z move Latios if he's a Dragon Dance variant. So I'm kind of expecting this to be a Ground EMZ sets, and despite the fact that my Magearna is near max defense, I cannot take a +1 Tectonic Rage. So I'm going to pull a double now into my Mega Aerodactyl, expecting him to probably pop the Z move, and even if he doesn't pop the Z move and goes for another Dragon Dance, my Mega Aerodactyl has enough defense investment and bulk investment to take a +2 hit from the Latios anyways, unless he decides to lock himself into Outrage, in which case my Magearna can then check him as well. So this was my overall best play to try to get myself out of this kind of difficult situation really early on in the game here. This Latios set really caught me off guard, honestly. I didn't expect this to come, at least this particular type of Latios set. But regardless, we are able to deal with this here relatively easily, as the Mega Aerodactyl is able to chew the +1 Zen Headbutt and knock out the Latios with the Ice Fang, putting us in a pretty good 6-5 position here early on in the game, as now he's going to go into his Scizor, going into Scizor here is a pretty good play because he can threaten me with a Bullet Punch, maybe go for a Swords Dance if he wants to, or better yet, probably from his end, go ahead and fire off a Defog, which makes a lot of sense with the Ho-Oh in the back. He does just get off the Defog, and I just go into my Magearna, which overall is a pretty safe response to the Scizor, as I should be able to outspeed this thing unless it's carrying a lot of speed investment. And I am packing the Hidden Power Fire on this set as well, but I don't expect him to stay in now. He really has no reason to, so I'm just going to go for the Volt Switch, expecting him to go into either his Araquanid or into his Ho-Oh here on this turn, as he does make the play into the Araquanid, which gives me a pretty free opportunity to go back into my Groudon. I contemplated a few options here on this turn. I kind of thought about going into my Aerodactyl as well on this turn, as I think Aerodactyl can really pressure his team a lot. Now it potentially give me an opportunity to get off Stone Edge damage against an incoming Scizor, which might be nice for my Scolipede later on in the game, but instead I go into my Groudon as a little bit of a safer option, and expecting him to probably not try to switch into anything else. He didn't really bring any good Groudon switch-ins. Gliscor was really his only switch-in on his team, and I had the Hidden Power Ice for that if he brought it, but yeah, knowing he really didn't have switch-ins to it, I decided to just stay in with my Groudon and just go straight for the Stone Edge instead of trying to get up the Stealth Rock right then and there, as I know I can get up rocks against something else on his team relatively freely if I want. So he just goes into his Conkeldurr, which is not really super threatening to my Groudon. I'm just going to go ahead and fire off a pretty free Precipice Blades and do well over half to this thing. Groudon is so strong, guys. Holy crap. As I'm now expecting him to probably want to try to switch out, or even if he tries to stay in. Stealth Rocks are so valuable to me in this game that I'm going to go ahead and try to set them up here, as he does allow me to do that. He goes straight into his Ho-Oh. Unfortunately, I did set the Sun form with my Groudon, so despite the fact that my Manaphy is physically defensive invested to help me deal with this Ho-Oh, that Sacred Fire is still going to do half to Manaphy. That's ridiculous. This is resisted, kind of a resisted hit to a pretty defensive Manaphy, and it did half damage, over half with the burn, which pretty much confirms this is Adamant Banded Ho-Oh, so that's a massive threat here for sure. But thankfully the Sun is going to go away here on this turn, so I can't just go for a Surf, and this also means I should be able to pretty easily survive the upcoming Sacred Fire from the Ho-Oh, as it actually knocks me out, which was a little surprising, but it was due to a critical hit. So that's a little bit unfortunate there for sure. I would have liked to get a little more damage off with the Manaphy, but we'll see if we can play around that here as the game goes on. As I'm going to go into my Scolipede now, knowing that I should be able to check this thing relatively freely, and if he does decide to go into the Scizor on this turn, which would make a lot of sense, it'll give me really valuable information on this thing's EV spread here, as I do really need to know what type of Scizor I'm dealing with for a potential late game sweep with this, or the Mega Aerodactyl. So this Aqua Tail does a good chunk of damage. It looks like about 35 to 40% to this Scizor, so I'll have to keep that in mind as we approach the end game here of this match. But now expecting him to go for a Roost almost certainly. I'm going to pull a hard switch into my Mew. If he went for a U-turn on that turn, I probably would lose my Mew, but that'd be super worth it as far as I'm concerned, because rocks are still on the field, and that would mean that the Scizor is also going to be significantly weakened for my Scolipede and Mega Aerodactyl. So Mew is a really safe play here on this turn in my opinion, as I'm just going to go for the Flamethrower, as he reveals the pretty obvious Aqua Berry. Does get off the Defog, unfortunately, so he's able to get the rocks off the field yet again. I'm going to have to try to, struggle to get those back up a little bit later on, but Groudon again is able to set him up on a lot of his team. That's why I brought it as the Stealth Rocker here in this game. So now I'm going to just go for, let's see, I went for a Flamethrower, of course, for the Scizor, trying to knock that thing out if he would allow me to, but Tom's a smarter player than that for sure. He's not going to allow me to do that, as now he's going to go into his Koko, just go straight for the Adamant U-turn, potentially Naughty, or whatever the other attack boosting nature is. He's one of those. I'm confident at this point, as I'm just going to go for the Toxic, actually expecting him to make that type of play and try to go into his Ho-Oh, which is otherwise a really safe switch into my Mew if I'm not clicking a rock coverage move against him, which, in hindsight, I kind of wish I had a rock coverage move on this Mew for the Ho-Oh. I don't know why in my head I was so concerned about Gliscor whenever Ho-Oh was the obvious threat to my team. But anyway, that was just the choice I made in prep, as here I'm going to kind of pay for it, as the best I can do to hit the Ho-Oh now is Ice Beam, and my Mew is going to absolutely drop to this Brave Bird from the Ho-Oh. So yeah, that's unfortunate. I lose my Mew here, but it really wasn't that important in this game, honestly. It was more so just here to deny him Sticky Web if he decided to try to set those up with the Araquanid, and he didn't do that, so I don't have to worry about it. So the Ho-Oh did weaken himself down quite a bit here with his Brave Bird recoil. I'm just going to go into my Mega Aerodactyl, and because the Ho-Oh has presented itself as quite a threat by knocking out my Manaphy in 2 turns, I'm just going to go ahead and go for a Roost with my Aerodactyl just to make sure I have something that can take a banded hit from it if I absolutely need to at some point in the game, as he decides to make a good switch into his Conkeldurr. Shout out to Tom, I guess he's officially a man, because in my team builder I said if he switches Conkeldurr into an Aerodactyl, he's officially a man, and I think that's the truth now, so I guess it makes sense. But anyway, I'm just going to go into my Magearna on the Conkeldurr, knowing I can take any 2 hits from this thing really easily, even 2 Fire Punches, as he's almost certainly not a Light Orb variant. And anyway, so I'm going to go into Magearna. I should be able to outspeed this thing, as I missed a Fluor Cannon, so I'm now 0-2 on those this season. Fluor Cannon not treating me particularly well. I'm not too happy with Fluor Cannon, but Magearna is still cool, so that's awesome. But anyways, I'm going to go for another Fluor Cannon, see if we can finally hit our first Fluor Cannon of the season. And yeah, we finally do. So you guys finally get to see the nice Fluor Cannon animation. That's probably going to end up being the thumbnail picture, just because I might not hit another one of those all season. I might not bring Fluor Cannon another time all season. I'm getting kind of annoyed by that. But anyways, we do knock out the Conkeldurr with the Fluor Cannon, which is pretty awesome here for sure. But unfortunately, he's able to now go into his Ho-Oh, which I don't have switch-ins for. So I'm going to just go into my Mega Aerodactyl. And if I can dodge the burn from this Sacred Fire, that would be absolutely massive for me in this game. He's already gotten 1 for 1. If he gets 2 for 2, that's considered hacks in my eyes, as that would be a 25% chance, and he actually gets the burn. So that's kind of annoying, but if I can still land this Stone Edge on the likely switch into the Scizor, then I should be able to actually 2-hit KO the Scizor as well, which would mean that it's pretty much game over with my Scolipede here in the late game. So that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go straight for the Stone Edge on the incoming Scizor, and we missed that as well. So now this endgame just got really interesting, okay? As now I have to play around this super carefully to have a way of winning this game. I still think Scolipede is probably my win condition, but I need my Magearna to be able to help me out in that as well. To be able to help me check the Scizors, I have to get the Scizor weakened, and Magearna is going to be one of my ways of doing that now that Aerodactyl is weakened as well. So anyways, this is looking a little bit rough here, as he's just going to go for the Roost with the Scizor, then he's going to go for a Bullet Punch, which I don't really agree with that play, just because that was risking his Scizor's life, which was really the only thing stopping my Scolipede. But even so, it worked out well for him. I guess he expected my Roost, or my Volt Switch rather, and maybe he expected me to not have the Hidden Power Fire, which is very possible as well. So, you know, more power to him. It worked out for him here, as I'm just going to go now into my Groudon, knowing that, again, he doesn't really have switch-ins to this. So I'm just going to go straight for my Stealth Rock here, knowing he's probably going to switch, or he might even just stay in and sack. And either way, this makes a lot of sense for me to get my Stealth Rocks up. And I guess the more likely play was him trying to go into his Koko, as that's looking like the least useful member of his team here. But he actually reveals to have the double defog on his team, so really, really good prep there on Tom's end. That was phenomenal there. He's able to get rid of my rocks, which were so important in this game to keep the Ho-Oh low. I needed the Ho-Oh weakened for stuff like my Volt Switch Magearna to really put in the work that it was meant to do, as the defog play really caught me off guard, because now I'm going to take out the Koko with my Groudon, and the Koko was the mon that was going to be able to get up Stealth Rocks on the most freely with the Groudon, as now he's going to go into his Ho-Oh. Given the situation, he's going to go into his Ho-Oh after the Koko goes down to revenge my Groudon, and given the situation, I can't really sack anything else on my team. Honestly, just with how Groudon's going to set up the Drought, which would then nerf my Scolipede later on in the game. If I'm trying to win with Scolipede, I kind of have to sack off Groudon. So that's just kind of an unfortunate circumstance of having the Drought ability. But you know, it's been kind of a nice ability to have, I guess, throughout the rest of the season. So I can't complain too much, but you know, it kind of hurt me in that specific situation, as it kind of lost me a potential turn of damage against the Scizor. But I'm just going to go for the Aqua Tail on the Scizor, as it goes for for a U-turn. That was a pivotal point in the game. I'm going to talk more about that here as the game wraps up, as now he's going to go into his Ho-Oh off of the U-turn. But basically what that turn meant is that now the Scizor is weakened enough to where I'm going to be able to beat that with my Scolipede later on in the game, as well as with my Magearna. So now I can freely go for the damage with my Scolipede against this Ho-Oh and finally have an opportunity to potentially knock out this Ho-Oh here. I just go for it, protect to get a little more of it damage racked up against it from the toxic damages. Otherwise it wouldn't be a guaranteed knockout with my Adamant Aqua Tail. Coming from the Scolipede, fortunately we were able to hit that attack. The Ho-Oh is going to drop, and now all he has left is that Scizor, which I know my Magearna is guaranteed going to be able to beat, even if the Scizor is able to knock out my Scolipede here with a Bullet Punch. But let's see if Scolipede can take home the final kill of the game, as the Scizor is going to fire off the Bullet Punch, and bulky Scolipede is going to survive on 10 health and knock out the Scizor with the Aqua Tail, as I will also go down to the Life Orb recoil. So wow, what a game. That was so close there at the end. Great game to Tom. Let me talk a little bit about that last sequence of plays, because there's a lot I wanted to say in that sequence. I didn't really want to pause the replay to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it now a little bit. So there's a lot that could have happened there on that turn. The pivotal moment in the game, as you guys probably could tell, was when he clicked U-turn with his Scizor in the face of my Scolipede. There's a lot of things that could have been going on in his head and a lot that was going on in my head on that particular turn. Based upon what I brought, my only play was to click Aqua Tail, because that's the only thing I could possibly do in that situation that would really give me a chance of winning the game. But from his perspective, he has to consider the fact that I could easily be a Swords Dance Scolipede. If I had Swords Dance, I'd be clicking Swords Dance there 100%, because if I get up to +4, then I guaranteed win the game from that point. As long as I don't miss an Aqua Tail, obviously. So if I were to get up 2 Swords Dances on that, he would not be able to 2-hit KO me with Bullet Punches, unless he was going to, I guess, not go for... Okay, so 2 situations. He's either going to go for a Roost on that turn, or he's going to go for a Bullet Punch, or I guess a U-turn. I don't really agree with the U-turn play, but I'll back off of that for the time being. I think his 2 best plays were Bullet Punch or Roost. If he were to go for a Roost on that turn and I was an SD Scolipede, I'd be able to SD up twice, knock out the Scizor, or at least put it into guaranteed range of my Aerodactyl to the point where it can't switch in on me. And yeah, so I'd win the game at that point if he tried to go for a Roost and I was a Swords Dance Scolipede, unless it got like a critical hit, I guess, with his one of his 2 Bullet Punches. If he goes for a Roost and I am the set that I actually am, then I would have lost, because I couldn't break the Scolipede on that turn. There's no way I would have been able to knock him out. With the Aqua Tail, he could have just spammed Roost repeatedly, and then Ho-Oh would have been able to probably clean up the game against my team, if I recall correctly. So that's another thing, is he could always just go into the Ho-Oh on my Magearna, and then he could always just go back into the Scizor on my Aerodactyl. It would be a cycle that I can never get out of. But the other thing he had to consider, though, is that it could have also been like a Fire Move Aerodactyl. As a Fire Move Mega Aerodactyl, I still had, you know, that move slot available or 2 move slots. I'm trying to think what I actually showed on the arrow. I think I showed 3 moves. I showed Stone Edge, Ice Fang, and Roost. That last slot could have very easily been a fire coverage move, and he might have been thinking about that as well. Maybe that's why he tried to make the U-turn play, to try to get himself into a better position against that, potentially in the late game. But, you know, if he had potentially, let me think, if he had gone for a Bullet Punch, for example, on that turn and tried to knock out my Scolipede, I could have gone into my Magearna then to check the Scizor. I could have Volt Switched on that, as he'd probably go into his Ho-Oh. Then I could go into my Mega Aerodactyl. I could either click a potential fire move if I had it, or I could maybe Roost to give myself a better chance of hitting the Scizor with a fire move later on in the game. So there's just a lot of stuff that could have happened there at the end that really made that last sequence of plays just a true 50-50 to determine the outcome. We really were fortunate to be able to kind of sneak out of here with the win here this week. But once again, great game to Tom. I hope you guys enjoyed that match. match. I know I did too. You know, one of those with the hearts pounding. That's one of the most fun things about draft formats, when the games are really close like that. So anyways, that is the game for this week. Unfortunately, we have not yet clinched playoffs. I was really hoping we'd be able to clinch here with this game, but we're not quite there yet, and that's because my man Dan's is doing really well here at the end of the season. So you know, if I'm not going to clinch yet, and it's because of Dan's, I'm definitely okay with that as well. So we actually play Danzo later on in the season, so that might come into play when it comes to playoff seeding as well. But anyways, that is the game for this week. Make sure to let me know what you guys think about the game in the comments below. Make sure to answer the question of the day as well, which I'll be honest, I haven't decided what it is yet, but let me think of one off the top of my head. All right, what do you guys think about Ho-Oh in draft format? Ho-Oh, oh my lord, that put in so much work in this game. I did not expect it to be that big of a threat against my team. I really underestimated it, guys. I really underestimated it. No doubt about it. I probably should have brought like Thunderwave on Mew instead of the Toxic to help me deal better with the Ho-Oh. That would have been probably the best adjustment I could have made to my prep, is if I had done that, then my Groudon would have been able to win the game a lot more easily, I think, than my other mons would have been able to. So I think that's what I probably would have changed in my prep to deal with Ho-Oh. But Banded Ho-Oh did so much work. Like when you 2-hit KO a Manaphy with a resisted Sacred Fire, like, you're doing something right, okay? So what do you guys think about Ho-Oh? Let me know what you think about that in the comments below as well. Again, make sure to go check out Tom's side of the match. And with all that said, I will see you all next week as we take on Cybertron. VGC, the coach of the Melbourne Rotoms, who is having a pretty good season overall. He's lost a couple games here recently, but that doesn't make his team any less threatening, as I think he has the MVP leader for the season so far in Rayquaza. So he's doing a really good job at getting a bunch of kills with that here for sure. But I hope you guys are looking forward to that game. Again, I apologize for the late upload this week. Hopefully it won't happen again. And yeah, I'm going to stop rambling. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next week. Peace.